For the past several years, people have been saying that we are living on the cursed timeline. Ever since Harambe, God rest his soul, left this mortal plane, we've been seeing disaster after disaster make headline after headline, and recent events have shown that there is no sign of slowing down. I mean, we've got Chinese spy balloons floating over the continent, we have Chinese apps taking over the minds of our youths, we had a Chinese virus shut down the entire world for what felt like an eternity, and as if it all couldn't possibly get any worse. We also have Ohio. But I'm not here to sulk about our world, I'm here because I'm brave enough to make a bold claim. I'm willing to tell you that we are not, in fact, living on the cursed timeline. As a matter of fact, we're living in one of the best possible timelines we ever could have gotten. And it's all because of one video game, Grand Theft Auto: Liberty City Stories. Huh? You may be asking yourself, what the hell is Liberty City Stories? You might be saying if GTA 5 is the only GTA you've ever played. Or, isn't that just a PSP port is what you might be saying if you were like me a few months ago. To shine some light on the subject for those who may be unaware, Liberty City Stories is the game that brought Liberty City into the 3D universe of GTA video games. Yep, it is 100% definitively the first 3D GTA game to be set in Liberty City. Why else would it follow the title formula? First you had Vice City, which took place in Vice City, then San Andreas, which took place in San Andreas, and now we have Liberty City Stories set in beautiful Liberty City. Stories. Okay, fine, let's address the big three-shaped elephant in the room. Grand Theft Auto 3, released in 2001, was the first 3D universe GTA game, and it was set in Liberty City. Stories. But that's a game I already covered enough like a year and a half ago when I made that video on its definitive edition counterpart, and after that video came out, I made an oath to myself that I'd never talk about that video game again. However, when I got bored a few months ago and decided to legally obtain a copy of Liberty City Stories in order to emulate it, nice save, I very quickly fell in love with this game that I'd never really given a chance when I was a kid. After all, it was just a PSP game they put out on PS2, and it certainly wasn't up to San Andreas' par. But as an adult who's played through San Andreas, Vice City, and even GTA 3, unfortunately, I feel that I can finally appreciate what Liberty City Stories brought to the table, because this is the game that brings GTA 3 up to the standards its successors went on to set. When Rockstar initially created GTA 3, they didn't have the experience behind them that they did when making Vice City and San Andreas in the coming years, and as a result, 3 was left behind in the dust when it came to preserving their legacies. But when they went back around to Liberty City Stories, they finally had that experience they needed, and they used it to create the game that 3 could have been. And over the next however many minutes this video ends up being, I'm going to tell you exactly how. Alright, so first things first, why do I hate GTA 3? Well, truth be told, I don't hate it per se, I just have a very strong dislike for it. But I do respect what it accomplished. While this isn't a game that I'd likely ever play again by choice, I can still appreciate what it did for the future of gaming, because without this absolutely abhorrent disaster of an attempt at making a three-dimensional open-world video game by today's standards, we wouldn't have the masterpieces of Vice City and San Andreas, which only came out 1 and 3 years later respectively. And we sure as hell wouldn't have the groundbreaking titles like GTA's 4 and 5 as well as Red Dead Redemption 2, whose quality we've all started to take for granted in recent years. And never mind Rockstar's titles for a second, because we also wouldn't have classic and modern series like Saints Row, Driver, Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, Yakuza, or Yakuza, however the fuck you want to pronounce it, or even Fallout. But as far as Rockstar Games has come, it all started 20 years ago with Grand Theft Auto 3. Now, it truly is insane to think that the same company that made this could have also come out with something like this only a few years earlier. Like, when you factor in this game's primitive AI, inferior story, and frankly shitty controls, it just becomes amazing to think about how these two games could possibly be related at all. But the reality is, San Andreas is only successful because it built on the failures of GTA 3. Whereas in 3, you can't drive down the street without casually being shot at by rival gangs because their AI simply detects you, San Andreas allows you to recruit gangsters, go on the offensive, and take out those rival gangs. Where in 3, you can't last 2 minutes with a 4-star wanted level because you can't even look at the people shooting at you, San Andreas lets you strategically move around and determine the best way to deal with your enemies. Where in 3, you play as such a one-dimensional character that choosing to do one mission will cut you off from an entire mission chain without warning, San Andreas gives you the experience of taking over the whole world by forging brotherhoods out of betrayal and crumbling your enemies' empires. Alright, so maybe it's a little easy to take shots at GTA 3 by comparing it to San Andreas. So why don't we compare it to Vice City instead? I mean, that game only came out like 1 year later, so it can't be that much better, right? Except It very much is. Just comparing these two games' visuals is night and day, almost literally. So just imagine the gameplay differences. Now, I'll acknowledge one major flaw Vice City has is its lack of improvement in controls, but everything else was clearly kicked up to 10, from the soundtrack to the story to the activities, and even to just simply buying guns. Overall, Vice City is also just a much more fun game to play than 3, and just like San Andreas, it's very fondly remembered among the GTA community. But again, Vice City wouldn't be able to run if 3 never walked. So as I've alluded, Vice City and San Andreas hold very special places in the hearts of many Grand Theft Auto players, and they undoubtedly owe their notoriety to the failures learned from GTA 3. But why is it fair that Liberty City has to be sacrificed in order for these other worlds to be held on such high pedestals? Why must Liberty City be the sacrificial lamb while Vice City and San Andreas get to prosper? Why can't all 3 of these maps have their chance to shine? Well, luckily, they can, because many years after GTA 3 was released, Liberty City Stories debuted on store shelves in 2005 for PSP and 2006 for the PS2. And this game took the things that Rockstar learned through making Vice City and San Andreas and applied them here to finally make the 3D universe's interpretation of Liberty City one worth venturing. In GTA Liberty City Stories, we play as Tony Cipriani, aka that one guy whose mom keeps yelling at him in GTA 3.
No son of mine gets to buy some triads. Godfather, God rest his soul, took no crap from no triads.
Yes, Ma.
Italy.
I'm sure a lot of us can relate, Tony. Much like Claude, we follow Tony's journey through the world of Liberty City, first going through Portland, which is roughly based on Brooklyn and Queens, New York. Throughout this part of the game, you find that the Leone crime family is heavily embroiled in a war with smaller syndicates like the Sindacos and the Forellis. And you also learn that this was all orchestrated by the Sicilian Mafia. Once the Don, Salvatore Leone, discovers this, you help him escape to Staunton, an island based on Manhattan, where you promptly become a made man upon becoming Sal's most trusted member of the family. It's here that you eventually kill the mayor and begin to help get Donald Love elected in order to control the city. But in spite of your efforts, the Sicilians rig the vote and get Love's rival elected instead, who immediately has Salvatore arrested for his crimes. This brings us over to Shoreside Vale, which is somewhat based on New Jersey and upstate New York. From here, you continue to help Donald Love get back on his feet after losing the election, and in turn, he helps you damage the Forelli's influence in Staunton by bombing Little Italy, completely destroying the area so that Love will be contracted by the city to reconstruct it. Meanwhile, with your help, Salvatore gets released from prison on bail, but when you go to, convince the mayor to drop his charges, you discover that he's been kidnapped by the Sicilians to prevent this, and when you defeat them and rescue the mayor, you ultimately earn his favor, get the charges dropped, and take control of the city just like you planned. Now, I only gave you a Cliff Notes version of the story, but that right there is already a significantly greater story than go here, get paid, do that, get paid, kill the brother of the woman who saved your life because some weird dude asked you to, get paid. I'm sorry, I just fucking hate GTA 3's story, it's so fucking bad. But what about the rest of the game? Well, I'll tell you now that while they still aren't perfect, the controls are much better in my opinion. For one, you can actually look around, which is such a simple feature that GTA 3 desperately could have used, and it makes all the difference here. Another nice addition is the update to the auto-aiming system that makes it a lot more obvious to tell who you're locked onto. Whereas in 3 you had to pay attention to this thin red box that would display over your targets, Liberty City Stories replaces this system with something more in line with San Andreas' triangular targets that even show how much health your target has left. Although the only thing I don't like about how they implemented this is how the triangles get darker depending on how much... Should probably go ahead and turn that off. Alright, let's see, where was I? Oh, here we go. Okay, gotcha. Although the only thing I don't like about how this... fucking hell, that really fucking threw me off. The only thing I don't like about how they implemented this is how the triangles get darker depending on how much health your target has left, rather than progressively changing to red and then black once he's dead. The reason I don't like this is because it makes it harder to tell if the guy you're shooting at is actually dead or just mortally wounded, which can make all the difference in some scenarios. And this was clearly a concern after the game release, seeing as how they changed it back to the more purist system when they came out with Vice City Stories. One other nice to have feature is just the simple Vice City method of buying guns. If you wanted to buy guns in GTA 3, which you needed to do very often because of constantly dying in missions, then you had to walk into these gun pickups inside the store while your camera was suddenly placed at an awkward angle. And if you only had enough money to buy one specific weapon, well then you'd better be careful not to walk into one of the others on accident. Or if you wanted more ammo, you'd have to wait for the gun to respawn so you could walk into it again. In Vice City, meanwhile, all you had to do was walk up to the clerk to enter this menu, and just navigate your way over to the gun that you wish to buy, and you could easily buy as much ammo for it as you wanted. Luckily, Rockstar went with a ladder ladder method when it came to Liberty City Stories. But it's not just the controls that Rockstar improved upon here. They also added their improved AI to the world's NPCs, making it so much easier to navigate Liberty City without getting your ass blasted for simply existing. And not only are the AI just less of a pain in the ass to deal with, but they really add to the world and make Liberty City feel more alive this time around. Now, as you're walking around, you might notice a taxi pull up to the side of the road, see a pedestrian enter it, and then drive off. Now, this might have been a feature in Vice City, maybe even Vice City Stories as well, but I was genuinely blown away when I saw this for the first time because this sure as hell wasn't a feature in San Andreas. It's definitely not a feature in GTA 5, and it's not even a thing in GTA 4 either. GTA 4, where the AI was probably the most realistic it's ever been, set in the same city, and that city being based on the only place in the world where 80% of its traffic is taxicabs. How was this tiny little thing never brought back? Like, seriously, how the fuck is this not in GTA 4? I don't understand it. Why was this so fucking cool feature wasted on a goddamn PSP port no one's ever fucking heard of? Yeah. Sorry about that. Anyway, one other cool little thing is the fact that the cars can actually have passengers. Now, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but in GTA 3, every car on the road was either occupied by just a driver or nobody at all. This was likely due to Rockstar being unable to figure out a way to properly program in passengers before GTA 3 came out, but this was implemented in time for Vice City, and as such, it found its way into Liberty City Stories. Now then, back to the AI being a pain in the ass, is how when you're driving around with a wanted level, cops that are walking around on the sidewalk will throw out spike strips and try to pop your tires. And although this certainly makes police chases more challenging than these cops doing nothing, I definitely like this millions of times more than the cops just casually popping a few caps in your ride without even fucking looking at you. Did I mention I fucking hate GTA 3 yet? Now, all that stuff I just listed with the AI can be considered some quality of life changes, but there's also a few changes that Rockstar implemented outside of the AI that just round the game out with their little improvements. For one, the ability to actually walk around in your safe house is one of these little things that I'm talking about. I know it's such a minor detail, but one thing that always annoyed me a little bit when playing GTA 3 was how you'd immediately be taken to the save menu screen as soon as you walked into one of Claude's apartments. Like, damn bro, I just want to take a break from my murderous rampage and chill at home for a quick sec. Why is that such a fucking crime? Anyway, how about the radio? Now, I don't know about any of you, but when I played through GTA 3, the only station I could listen to was Chatterbox FM, which was Laszlo's talk show, because all of the music in that game freaking sucked. But that's understandable since Rockstar probably didn't have the money to license good songs when they were making GTA 3, but they obviously had the cash to put banger after banger into Vice City and San Andreas. So now that they have this cash, did they reinvest it into some bangers for Liberty City Stories? Well, Liberty Jam had some certified bops on it, but the only real reason I listened to that at all is because Chatterbox was part of a bigger station this time around, LCFR, which meant that there were like 4 or 5 other talk shows that I really just didn't care for that were usually playing instead of Laszlo. Let's see, what else is there? Oh yeah, if you've played GTA 3 but never seen any gameplay of Liberty City Stories, you might be incredibly thrown off by the fact that people in Liberty City are riding bikes. That's right, there are motorcycles in this one, which might not sound like that big of a deal, but after driving these fragile toy cars that make it a struggle to pass the other cars on the road in 3, it just feels so good to be able to easily drive between those cars at such a high speed en route to your objective. Now sure, you're likely to crash a lot and lose health as a result, but that's always been the trade-off for biking in any GTA, and I'm just glad I could finally do that in this version of Liberty City. Alright, I'm not going to sit here and act like Liberty City Stories is the best Grand Theft Auto in the series, not even by 2005 or 2006 standards. I'm not going to pretend it's a flawless game that you're a filthy communist if you don't 200% it. Just like with GTA 3, Liberty City Stories has its faults. Hell, just like with Vice City and San Andreas, just like GTA 4, GTA 5, and even Red Dead Redemption 2, Liberty City Stories, it still has its own issues. For one, even though they invented swimming in San Andreas, you still can't swim between the islands of Liberty City. Despite there being restaurants in previous titles, you still rely on health pickups to survive. And while they did improve on the gunplay in Liberty City Stories, it's still somewhat finicky, mostly due to the fact that you can't move while aiming, which is likely due to the limitation of the PSP's fewer amount of buttons, and that's something that's very difficult to adapt to. However, I firmly believe that this is a game that anyone who's played any of the original GTA trilogy should at least give a chance. And that goes double if you've ever played GTA 3. Don't be put off by the subpar mid-2000s graphics, and don't be threatened by its inferior controls to modern games. Find a way to play this title, play a few missions, go on a killing spree or two, and see where it takes you. If it isn't your game, that's fine, because at least you tried it. But if you did start to enjoy it like I did, then you might have just found yourself a hidden gem, and now you've got a brand new experience to open yourself up to. Because this game takes the world of GTA 3 and gives you a much more satisfying experience as you roam your way through it. And if you do decide to take my advice and give this game a try, there's a few ways you can do it. If you're a purist, or you just don't know how a computer works, you can always find a copy of Liberty City Stories and run it up on some good old original PSP or PS2 hardware. Alternatively, you could also buy it on iPhone or Android, although I obviously will never recommend that kind of hell to anybody. Lastly, you can do what I do and emulate it, either through PPSSPP if you want the PSP version, if that wasn't obvious enough, or through PCSX2 for the PS2 version. Regardless of your choice of hardware, I do hope that a few of you guys end up trying Liberty City Stories out. Because like I said near the start of this video, it's just not really fair that Liberty City had to be the world that Rockstar sacrificed in order to gain the experience necessary to create the magic in Vice City and San Andreas. But by revisiting Liberty City once they knew what they were doing, this map was finally given the fair shot it deserved, and I don't think it went to waste this time around. And that makes 3. Oh, son of a bitch, of course my fucking third video essay would end up revolving around GTA 3 in some form or fashion. Either way, as I said, this is my third video essay that I've made, and considering the success of that Thrillville video I made a few months ago, I'm gonna be honest and say that I'm actually starting to consider shifting the focus of this channel from posting funny gaming videos to consistently uploading stuff like this. Don't get me wrong, there won't be an immediately shift in my style of content or anything like that, since there's still a lot of regular gaming videos that I plan on making, seeing as how I already have the footage for them. But as time goes on, I think I'm at the very least gonna start making these video essays into more of a regular thing here. I suppose I should let you guys be the judge of that though, so if you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like on it, because that will tell me that you want to see more like this. But if you're impatient and don't want to wait until my next video essay, which, to be fair, the gap between the first two is like a year and a half, so I wouldn't blame you one bit, then feel free to check my other two out. I'll have them posted in that little white or black box in the upper right corner right about now. Or, if you're watching this on a console or smart TV or something, then you can search through my channel for one of these thumbnails on the screen. Either way, congratulations if you made it this far into the video. Here's a nice, warm chocolate chip cookie as a reward. Yeah, you see that steam coming off of it? That's how you know it's actually warm. Alright, I'm done bullshitting. Thank you guys all for watching, and until next time, I hope you each have a blessed day. I will catch y'all later.